I don't feel like I need to reiterate my name again. It is in fact Kari. I'm really grateful to be here with you this morning. This is one of my favorite spaces to be in. I love gathering with moms and with women and talking about how needy we are for Jesus. It's one of my favorite things to do. I tell people all the time I am passionate about weakness, and they kind of look at me like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, it's okay. I think maybe I just say it to make myself feel better because I feel really weak all the time. So if I say I'm passionate about it, it feels like it excuses it a little bit. But my get to this morning is to share my story with you, to share who I am because of who Jesus is, to share my weakness with you in hopes that God would be glorified. I have, like Patty said, been in student ministry. I've gotten to serve in women's ministry as well at our last church. I've stayed home with my kids. I've owned my own baking business. I've been at home and cried more days doing nothing than I've probably done something. And now I get to serve with our volunteers on Saturday nights who point our kids to Jesus. And I love that God's given us that space. My husband Caleb is right there. He's doing slides today. He's a middle school pastor here at Raleigh campus. So if you have a middle school student, just feel free to bombard him afterwards. Right? Ask him all the questions. He has been my pastor in the deepest sense of the word for 16 years. We have 2 kids. Corbin is 9 and Brielle is 7. I do get mistaken for as the nanny at the grocery store all the time. I had kids. We were babies. We were babies having babies, and God knew what He was doing in that space. One of my favorite things to do when I get the opportunity to stand in front of a group of people is to share with you all of the reasons why I am unqualified to be standing here today. And the first is that I get scared in groups of moms. I have social anxiety, and so I often just don't know what to do with all of you. And I am younger than most of my kids' friends' parents because we had kids so young. And my peers, people the same age as me, their kids are so much younger than my kids. So I end up feeling in this weird space where I feel like I just don't fit in. And like, am I the only one who feels like you just don't fit in? Like, yeah, raise your hand with me. I think most of us feel like we don't fit in, right? The second thing is I am not a natural mom. I am not super nurturing by nature. I don't really love physical touch. I don't like to be needed. I hoard my resources. I don't like having people pulling at me all the time. I don't keep Band-Aids in my purse. I can't remember to fill out field trip forms, right? I don't remember those ever. I think, did we get them in this week? They were due 2 weeks ago. Good job! I don't remember any of that stuff, and I wasn't even sure that I wanted to have kids. I wasn't a little girl that dreamed about being a mom and held babies and pretended and all of that. And so I just don't know that I have a whole lot of motherly advice to offer you this morning. As a newly married 21-year-old, I was given some scary news. A series of doctor's appointments, we found out that it was going to be really difficult for me to have kids, if I was going to be able to have kids at all. And if I got pregnant, they didn't know if my body would be able to sustain that pregnancy. I didn't know what to do with that information. My prefrontal cortex was not fully developed yet. and so we just were kind of like, okay, well, if we are going to have a hard time having kids, we might as well not try, we don't have to try not to have kids. Like, we're newly married, let's live it up. So we did, and roughly 9 months later, Corbin was born. Praise the Lord, right? Praise the Lord for him. He knew the exact circumstances that needed to happen to bring Corbin into this world. I was an exceedingly happy pregnant lady. I don't know if that's hard to imagine, but I was. But post-pregnancy was a different story completely. Corbin was born, and I didn't experience any joy. I mourn looking back. I grieve the baby things that I feel like I missed out on because I felt like I was outside my body. Like my body was doing these amazing things. There was this baby in it. I created him against all odds and sustained his life, and he came into the world. And oh yeah, I birthed him. I was there for that part, right? But I was so disconnected from all of it. I was kind of in awe of it, kind of like an Iowa girl would be standing on a cliff looking over the ocean knowing you don't belong there, right? But I just didn't feel much of anything. I didn't cry when he was born. I didn't feel any maternal bond when he was born. And if I'm being super honest, I knew in my head that I loved him, but I didn't feel like I loved him. I did all the things. I learned how to nurse. I did not like it. I learned how to do it, and I did it. I swaddled. We did a lot of swaddling in our house. I had met his needs. I listened when he cried. But it felt like my will was entering computer code into my mind, which then executed those functions through my body. I was just surviving, and I did that for 18 months. And if you haven't put two and two together, I was experiencing pretty intense postpartum depression at this stage in my life. And that wasn't new for me. Depression was not new for me. I am a lucky recipient of a triple dose of mental health triggers. My dad has bipolar disorder, and on my mom's side of the family is mental illness as well, depression, anxiety, and addiction. I also had a difficult home environment growing up, lots of brokenness in my family. And so I have environmental triggers too, of trauma responses too, so thanks for that, Jesus. When I'm really honest with him, I can get so bitter about this, but here's why I'm sharing all of this with you this morning. It is really hard for me to not feel like all I am is weakness, to not feel like that defines who I am. And I want to share with you this morning that is actually really, really good news. That Jesus has taught me so much through recognized weakness in my life. And I don't think that there's anything, I think you're going to relate to me, or anything that makes me realize how needy I am for Jesus, like being a mother to the two souls he's given me care over. I think you get that too. So there's two things as we go through the rest of this message that I want you to think about. The first is a question that Jesus asks me all the time, especially when I'm feeling weak, and that is, where are you putting your energy? We put so much energy into trying to outrun our weakness. And he's reminded me over and over again in my weakness, pour your energy into meeting me. Pour your energy into being with me. And the second one is just a thought that he brought to mind a couple of years ago as I was worshiping with a group of women a lot like this. And he just kind of whispered in my soul, so much of this weakness thing, friends, so much of experiencing God's beauty inside our weakness comes from learning to listen to what he sounds like in our weakness. And he whispered to me, teach them to need me. And I was a women's ministry director at that time, so of course I'm like, oh, that's a mission statement for ministry, right? Like that's where I go. And then he said, well, yeah, but I want that to be a banner over your motherhood. Teach them to need me. I've given you a gift of weakness. I've given you a gift of anxiety so that you can need me, so that you can teach your kids to need me, because they're not going to know how to need me unless you be a Christ and you model for them. So those are the two things that we're going to see come up over and over again here. I didn't really understand the gospel until about 6 years ago. I started following Jesus as a high school student, and he gave me purpose, and he kept my head above water, and he surrounded me with adults in our student ministry that loved me so well. I couldn't give up, and that 5-to-1 thing is legit, and I'm standing here because of it. They loved me so well I couldn't give up. But it wasn't until about 6 years ago. I have 2 kids now. Courtney's 4, and Brielle is 2, and Caleb is at work, and I'm at home at this point, and it's my job to be at home with the kids. And I woke up in the morning and I just felt off, and that's pretty typical. and I couldn't think straight. My mind was racing, and my whole body is buzzing, and I can't even understand the questions that they're asking me, and scary thoughts start running through my mind. So I called Caleb and I said, hey, like, this is what's going on. And so he comes home, he leaves his job as a pastor, right, because his wife can't do her job, which is to love these kids well. And he comes home and he walks in the door, and I go upstairs and shut the door to our bedroom and just slide down the door. And I hear my son say, can I go upstairs with mommy? And Caleb says, mommy needs some space right now. My kids have known that phrase since they could speak. Mommy needs space. And it was on my knees, and then I was on my face, and I'm crying. And I didn't even have enough energy to ask God to show up. But he did. He showed up, and he told me, you are so fiercely loved in this moment. You are fiercely loved when you have nothing to offer your kids or your husband. And friends, that is the gospel. The truth is, none of us have anything to offer. Isaiah says that our best efforts, are dirty rags. But because we are so fiercely loved inside that nothing that we have to offer by God, he sends Jesus. He sends Jesus to stand in the gap between us and him, to cover our weakness and to die for our sins so that we can have a relationship with God. That's the gospel. That's what makes our weakness good news. I decided when I was with you to forget everything except for Jesus Christ, the one who was crucified. My presence came to you with weakness, timid and trembling. My speech and my preaching were plain. I didn't use clever speech or persuasive speech, but relied on the power of the Holy Spirit. I did this so that you would trust not in human wisdom, but in the power of God. Because I wouldn't want anyone to think anything about me other than the fool that they would encounter if they met me on the street or heard me talking. Because of the extravagance of God's revelation, I was given a handicap to keep me in constant contact with my limitations. Satan's angel did his best to get me down. What he did instead was drag me to my knees. No danger then of walking around high and mighty. At first, I didn't think of it as a gift. I begged God to remove it 3 times. And to that I want to say, really, Paul? Only 3 times? 3 times I asked him to remove it from me, and he said, my grace is enough. It is all you need. My strength comes into its own in weakness. I was glad then to receive it. I was able to look at it and live in it and understand that this is a gift. Instead of focusing on the handicap, I experienced the gift. So now I embrace my limitations. I have good cheer in my limitations. The limitations that cut me down to size. Bad breaks, accidents, hardships, opposition. I just let Christ take over. For the weaker I become, the stronger I am. And that's Paul speaking in 1 Corinthians 2 and 2 Corinthians 12, 6 through 10. I love the Greek word for weakness in that passage. It's asthenia. And it means, along with weakness, illness, infirmity, want of strength, feebleness of soul. And from what I can tell, it simply means being out of strength all over. It is an expression of our frailty as human beings, of our deep lack, right? And as human beings. It also is used to describe the what often that Jesus was healing. This is from Luke 5:15. It says, soon a large crowd of people had gathered to listen and be healed of their ailments. That word for ailments is asthenia. So Jesus is healing physical illness, but the use of that word, asthenia, suggests that it's a whole person healing that he's doing. It's a deep healing that Jesus is doing. I want you to see this about Jesus too. This is from Hebrews 4. It says this, so then, since we have a great high priest who has entered heaven, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold firmly, it's a good word, to what we believe. This high priest of ours understands our weakness, for he faced all of the same testings we do, yet he did not sin. What I want you to notice there is that Jesus did. There is nothing that we will walk through that he didn't choose to walk through first. And let me tell you, it was a choice. He chose to be vulnerable, to take on asthenia, so that he could give it, so that he could fully forgive us and heal us and love us. That word for weakness there is asthenia. And another thing I want you to know in this is that weakness doesn't necessarily mean sin. If Jesus experienced it and Jesus is fully God, then we can be weak and not sin. So often our weakness turns into sin because we try and outrun it. We try and cover it up and hide it and paint pretty pictures over it rather than bringing it to the feet of God and allowing him to show up inside of it. Go ahead and teach yourself. I want you to know how Jesus did this. He was so dependent on his Father. He, over and over again, if you read the Gospels, he leaves. He leaves the crowds that are begging him to stay, right? And he gets away. And this is Luke 5:16. This is the verse directly after Luke 5:15, where it talks about how much healing he was doing. Right after that, what does he do? He goes to his Father. He's dependent on his Father. It says, as often as possible, Jesus withdrew to out-of-the-way places for prayer. I know the introverts in the room were like, yes, please. Jesus did it, I can do. I love that. I love this reminder that weakness doesn't have to equal sin. This is important because it teaches us that the experience of being human means aspenega. It means weakness. So we don't have to be afraid of our weakness or feel guilty because of our weakness, because Jesus experienced it too, and he gets it along with us. When we run from our weakness and try and hide from our weakness in the eyes of God, we miss out on our need, right? And we create this space between us and God that Jesus already covered. We can bring it to him. I'm going to go back to the Hebrews passage. At the end of that passage, it talks about Jesus' weakness. It says, so let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God. There we will receive his mercy, and we will find grace to help us when we need it most. When I was on my knees in my bedroom and Jesus came and met me and told me how much I was loved, this is what was happening. I didn't even realize it, but I was on my knees in front of God in his throne room because Jesus allowed me to be there. So when we're feeling especially weak, we can show up on our knees in the throne room of God. We've been invited there. And we can lay that weakness at his feet. And guess what we get to do? We get to pick up his strength instead. And that word for strength, we see it in 2 Corinthians 12, 9, and 10 at the end there. And so the weaker I get, the stronger I become. That word for stronger is dunamis. And it is the same word used to describe the power that raised Christ from the dead. That's what we get to replace our weakness. When we surrender in our weakness at the feet of Jesus. And that's a hard word, that word surrender. You don't have to get very far in the Bible if you're reading through it before you run into somebody who is a real weak but has mighty faith that God used. And I think that God uses those who are weak because they are nearer to the most honest version of themselves, right? They know they can't do it on their own. They know they're screwed if God doesn't show up. So when we admit at the feet of Jesus our weakness and our need and our inability and our lack, that's going to look different for all of us. I don't know what that looks like for you. And mine is so intertwined between anxiety and depression and my own sin issues that I don't even know sometimes when I'm asking him to heal, when I'm asking him to show up inside of. But I know that he does. All right, so I have this pumpkin up here. Can you see it? I know y'all thought I was just being like festive, right? You know me for very long. You know there's always a reason. There's always meaning. There's always meaning. This is Penelope. This is Penelope the pumpkin. Jesus grew Penelope in my backyard garden for you. I say garden because it's usually a patch of weeds. I tried to plant some herbs at the beginning of the year. I like the idea of an herb garden. So we attempted the herb garden, and then there's a few that are still doing okay because they're enjoying life under the shade of the weeds that have grown. And I went out there to cook some basil, some pasta, a few weeks ago, and I walked around the back of my garden, and there's all these vines, and I don't know what they are. Maybe they're squash, but I don't know because I didn't plant squash. And Penelope, over the back edge of our garden, there's a vine, and it's just hanging. And I'm not kidding to you, she's just clinging to that vine. I didn't plant any pumpkin. I didn't plant the pumpkin. I didn't water the pumpkin. I didn't care for the pumpkin. I didn't weed the pumpkin. And I stopped, and I got tears in my eyes, and God said to me, if I want to grow fruit, I'm going to grow fruit. And it's your job to pour all your energy into clinging to that vine like your life depends on it, because it does. Because it does. I think so often I live like my relationship with Jesus is like my Toyota Sienna. Rita, we name things at our house. Rita needs gas, and she goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And as she runs out of gas, she gets empty, and I fill her up, and she goes and goes and goes and goes and goes again. And sometimes we usually do this that way. And there's validity there because there's periods of rest built into our day and into our week where we have to refuel. But sometimes we forget that we are constantly connected to the vine, right? Go ahead, John 15. I am the true grapevine, and my Father is the gardener. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. This last part's really important. The part for me to get into. I want my kids to spend time with me and feel closer to Jesus. Not because I get it right all the time, but because I've been clinging to the vine with all of my energy, allowing the strength of Jesus to continuously flow through me. The vine is always connected to the branch. There's a consistent, continual exchange of nutrients that's happening there. And we have that too, and I think we forget. So what do? What does that look like? The theory of it sounds good, right? I want to meet Jesus and I want to spend my energy with him. But what does that look like on a daily basis? And here's the thing, it's hard. It's hard in this culture that tells us that we need to be comfortable, that our life is about ease and getting rid of all of our difficulty, that we can do it on our own. We're surrounded by that. So we have to do it on purpose. We have to recognize our need for Jesus on purpose sometimes. Sometimes it smacks us in the face, and I feel like my whole life has been that way. But sometimes we have to do it on purpose. And I'm going to tell you right now that it's going to take getting uncomfortable. Right? We can go through our days and be so comfortable that we don't ever end up in a space where we say, Jesus, I need you. So these are just things that I do on purpose to get a little uncomfortable. The first one is Sabbath. I want you to know that Sabbath is built into creation itself. It's not a result of the fall. We are designed to Sabbath, and we don't like it. We don't like quiet. We don't like space. But I think that if we choose the discomfort of stopping for a little while, to sacrifice our productivity for a little while and trust that God's still going to show up, he's still going to get the work done, he's still going to do what he's going to do because he's God and he's sovereign and you're not, even if you're not there for a little while. Choose the discomfort of stopping and resting for a little while. The second is posture. And we see in the New Testament, we see Jesus and we see women on their knees at the feet of Jesus over and over again. And sometimes it just takes the small discomfort of choosing to get on our knees, to talk to God, to recognize our need for him. There's something about having your knees on the floor and your face on the floor that says, I'm desperate for you, Jesus. I can't do this on my own. Fasting is uncomfortable, right? Sometimes even just for breakfast or lunch. And every time you get hungry, I need you, Jesus. You feel that hunger pain, I need you, Jesus. I need you, Jesus. I need you, Jesus. Serve somewhere that makes you uncomfortable. Ask God where that is, and then show up and do it. Because he equips the call, right? He doesn't call, he equips. So it's going to feel uncomfortable. But choose to do it. And the whole time, I need you, Jesus. I need you, Jesus. I need you, Jesus. Find quiet space and use it. My husband's phone got stolen a couple weeks ago, and his response to people like, how do you live? has been, I actually have found I have so much more time than I thought I did. Because we spend so much of it mindlessly scrolling. So pick up your phone, look at your time usage, and those times in the day where you're on social media or online shopping, and choose to program your phone to turn off during that time, and use that space. I need you, Jesus. I need you, Jesus. It might be that you do it while you're waiting in traffic, or it might be in that time, or it might be before bed. You use that on purpose. It's going to be uncomfortable because we're used to our minds being busy all the time. Flood yourself with truth. Surround yourself with truth on the walls of your house. Get in the Word. That for so many of us, I'm there too, is uncomfortable because we don't understand it sometimes. Flood yourself with truth is living and active. And the last one is move. Exercise. I will often go for a walk or a run, not a short or not a long one, but just move. It's uncomfortable. Right? We run out of breath, and I won't take my headphones with me, and I'll just choose every time I get uncomfortable while I'm running. I need you, Jesus. I need you, Jesus. I need you, Jesus. The good news about all of this is that we get to do this together, friends. We are surrounded by other moms who need Jesus too. We're surrounded by other moms who feel like they don't fit in. We're surrounded by other moms that are weak, and we get to be honest with each other in our weakness, and we get to be vulnerable. And I challenge you to go first, because when you do, others will follow. We get to share what's hard now, what God's walking us through now, not just what He brought us through 5 years ago. I want my kids to know Jesus going with me, and I know you do too. And I know that the way that we can do that is getting on our knees in front of God and filming with God because of Jesus. And we get to surrender who we are and pick up His strength instead. So let's do that. Let's meet Jesus together, and let's point each other to Him together. Let me pray for you before falling. God, I'm so aware. I'm so aware, Jesus, of how needy I am for you. I'm so aware that I can't do today or tomorrow without being at your feet, without being connected to the vine, without drawing strength from you. I thank you that I'm not alone in that. I thank you that your Holy Spirit's power is in us and through us, and I thank you that we get to do it together. I pray, God, just that your Spirit would be present at these tables. There would just be permission around these tables to say, I'm weak and I need Jesus, and that we would be in that together. God, I pray just for your presence to be shown here. Anyone that needs to hear it this morning, God, that needs to hear that they're fiercely loved even when they have nothing to offer. God, I pray they would feel that and experience it. Thank you for being good. Thank you for loving us. And we pray that we would be examples of needing you and that would pour over into the lives of our kids. God, these things in your name, Jesus. Amen.